Ice-T, hosted by Meghan Lamontagne, who's joining us right here in studio.
Dennis, thank you so much.
So thanks for joining us. By the way, if you ever go to a Carolina Hurricanes game at Lenovo Center, the in-arena host, Meghan Lamontagne, you recognize her, recognize her voice. If you ever listen to Mix 101.5 from any time between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., you can hear her on Mix 101.5 as well. But you do have a new podcast out called Ice-T. It's a podcast. First episode dropped today.
Yes.
And you were joined by Cam Ward,
I was.
the Canes Hall of Famer. And I think for Canes fans are really going to appreciate this because obviously we talk a lot about what's on the ice and transactions and movement. We talk about that on this show. Adam Gold does it, his Canes Corner podcast. But to me, this podcast, Megan, correct me if I'm wrong, it really is going into the human element and like really the people behind the scenes and life off the ice for Cam Ward. And there's other people like there's some wives of players that we're going to have
That's right. Really, I just wanted to feel closer to the team. And I think that's what every fan wants. Like, we want to understand, the elements and the talents when they're on the ice. But then also, they're just such fun guys, you feel like, and you want to know as much as you can about them, I guess, off the ice too, but not even about them, but about all these wonderful people that make up the organization. And that was my goal. I just wanted to throw it out there and see how many people were interested in telling their stories, and the response was great. And I'm so excited to share that we just have a plethora of people that have so much wonderful things to do with the organization, and we're uncovering their stories. And I'm not saying I'm getting the exclusive, but I feel like a lot of things I've heard, I'm like, wow, I don't think any of the fans know this.
Well, I think that's what people want to know because they see the Carolina Hurricanes. By the way, that's Meghan Lamontagne, host of the Ice-T podcast, joining us here in studio. And I think that's what people want, is that they see the Carolina Hurricanes and they go, that's part of my community. And they like this team, these players are part of our community. We are part of them as well. Like they're all integrated. I mean, I've run across players walking into the movie theaters with their families and stuff. I've seen players going out in dinner. I've ran into players at the grocery store. So they're part of your community just as much as you and I are. And I think people are going to appreciate that. You obviously have Cam Ward today, but we obviously know what Cam Ward is like on the ice and what he did as a player. What are some things, spill the tea a little bit here, about what are some things that people that listen to this first episode, what can they expect to hear from Cam Ward that we might not know?
There were so many things I wanted to dive into, but first and foremost, I just jump right into him winning the Stanley Cup as a rookie, because even though there are longtime fans, I didn't move to Raleigh until 5 years ago, and sports was always something that was home to me because I grew up in Boston. So when I moved to Raleigh, I knew okay, what are these Carolina Hurricanes all about? I quickly became a fan, but I do get a little FOMO thinking about, okay, I wasn't here in 2006. I wasn't a part of that Stanley Cup championship victory, but I consider myself such a big fan. And I know so many fans listening to this right now and listening to the podcast feel the same way. So I just wanted to dive in, talk to him about the Stanley Cup, talk about what his day was like with the Stanley Cup. He really got emotional and opened up about his family and about how his grandpa was one of his biggest supporters. And he also talked about all the different beverages he put in the Stanley Cup and who he got it from. And so we had a lot of fun moments there. But then we dive into his life off the ice as a dad and a husband, and talk about him and his wife, Cody, being high school sweethearts, and then also him being an entrepreneur. And I don't want to give too much away, but it really is just the amount he shared with me. I feel so honored, and I'm glad he felt safe to talk to me about all of that.
I mean, I'm in my late 30s now, and for athletes, that's when their career's done. Right. Usually. I mean, if guys can get even to that age, it's pretty remarkable. Then there's a whole other life that you have to live outside of your athletic career. I mean, if you retire at age 35, okay, like if you live another 40 years, what are you going to be doing with that time?
Right.
There's a lot that goes into that. And I'm sure Cam Ward probably opened up about that.
Yeah,
for sure.
well, he is. He's going to be 41. His birthday is on February 29th. So we're talking about him being a leap year baby.
Okay.
But yeah, no, okay, so I'll delve into this, but I don't know if you know, but like he has his own wine company.
Oh.
He owns his own vineyard in Napa with Tim Gleason.
Oh, the Canes assistant coach?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talk all about that and how we got into it. And it's just the stories that, the different directions that we go in this interview is just fantastic. And I really hope I did the fans proud because I really want them to just love this.
Ice-T is the name of the podcast. You can get it wherever podcasts can be found. Also, this is Meghan Lamontagne in studio here talking about, she's the host of this podcast, joining us here. Dennis Scott sitting in for Tim Donnelly this afternoon. But obviously you have one former player, but there's so many other people in the organization that you have talked to already. Mm-hmm. I remember correctly, you have family members of players?
That's right. Yeah. So the next episode we have coming up after Cam Ward is I'm interviewing Hannah Yates.
Okay.
Because as a journalist myself and as a reporter and all, she's just so great on the sidelines for FanDuel Sports Network. And I think we just don't know a lot about her, and I just wanted to uncover that. We also interview Chef Sean, the performance chef for the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay. So that episode is all about food. So get a snack before you listen because you will be hungry at the end of the episode. And then, yes, also Jalen Chatfield's fiance, Drew Schott, we interview her as well.
Oh, wow.
And she's fun. She discloses a lot of information, and I can only imagine what the wives know, and we get a little slice of that with her.
I can only imagine. But again, there's the human element to all of this.
Yeah.
The fact that Drew, Jalen's wife, they have a kid, or Jalen's fiance, they have a kid together. So how do you balance out being a parent and being the athlete or the wife of an athlete? So there's so much that goes into it that people maybe don't realize. Certainly when we look on the ice, we see the players playing, but there's everything else that goes with it.
Yeah.
And I think about it as well, is that with Jalen Chatfield's journey, it was not easy path. It wasn't a very linear, all right, I go play juniors, I get drafted, I play a year in the minors, and I'm on the big team, for 7-8 years. It wasn't a linear path like that for him. For him, it was juniors, not get drafted, bounce around the minor leagues, finally gets his opportunity here. And she had to be with him every step of the way.
The whole time. She was with him from, she was talking about the billet families he was with. Like, she was with him throughout the entirety of his career. And she was like, that's what made me fall in love with Jalen, was the fact that he didn't give up. And he saw the light at the end of the tunnel. He knew he was going to make it to the NHL. Mm-hmm. And she's like, it's that belief he had in himself that made me fall in love with him.
That's a pretty remarkable thing. Mm-hmm. So there's so much that goes into that. Whom else can we expect to hear on this podcast? Possibly?
Mike Maniscalco.
All right,
we have, and we also have, because I want the fans to fall in love with this podcast, why not have one of the biggest fans, Sue the Sign Lady? You may know and love her from every single game. She is there with a different sign. You see her on the Jumbotron. But also, we haven't finished the podcast either. So there's still some people that I need to invite and have on, and I'm just really excited. I just wanted to mention real quick, too, going back to Cam Ward, we were talking about the family and what they go through behind closed doors. And I'm only going to share this because he does share this in the podcast. But his son was born deaf, and his son had to have a cochlear implant. So, I'm just so grateful he opened up about that part of his life too on the podcast, and he goes into that because he still had to play after finding out that his son couldn't hear, and after finding out his son was going to need life-changing surgery, and he was still out there saving pucks. And so I just so the first episode is really great. It pulls at the heartstrings and also makes you laugh. Yeah,
that's, again, it's so easy for us to pass over those things. Mm-hmm. Like being a parent is being a parent.
Yeah.
No matter what your profession is, being a parent is being a parent. And the people that have such high pressure situations or just a high pressure job where so many people are watching you and your results are known by everyone and everything is based on the results of what you do, and you still got to go home and be a parent.
Exactly.
That's a big time thing. Meghan, where can people find Ice-T, whether it's online, YouTube? Where can they find it? Listening, where can people find this?
You can listen to the Ice-T podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's everywhere. And then also we do have a wonderful set and we do video it. So if you are someone that really likes to see, the expressions, then check it out on YouTube at Ice-T Podcast.
Ice-T Podcast. Take a look for it right there. And also, leave comments.
Please. Oh my gosh, yes.
Subscribe to it, leave comments and all that stuff for sure.
Because if I had these people on again, I would love to ask them the questions that you have that I might not have covered.
That's awesome. That's Meghan Lamontagne. Where can people follow you?
Oh, you can follow me at Meghan on the mic on Instagram. And then also I am on middays on Mix 101.5, our sister station. So you can listen from 10 to 3. Hop over between Adam Gold and myself.
Okay, there it is. Also, if you go to a Canes game at Lenovo Center, you'll see Meghan there as well.
That's right.
Meghan, thanks so much for
Dennis,
your time.
thank
really
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
My pleasure. Again, Ice-T is the name of the podcast.